Hey, beautiful people. How are we doing? Welcome back to another episode. I am Anitra and Andre, storyteller, producer, educator, and content creator. He is Dr. Andre Evans, the brother I never wanted. You want to say what's up to the people?
What's up, good people?
And we are Savage Siblings. This is our podcast where we are brutally honest, relentlessly transparent, and unapologetically authentic. And we're super glad that you are rocking with us today. Bro.
What's up?
What's up? What's been going on with you? Let me check in.
Man, all is well. Just, moving right along. It's kind of a hectic week. A lot of high positions in my life are switching, and you got to get used to new folk, and you got to get used to new language, building new relationships, all these things. And I think that kind of really just kind of feeds into the importance of this podcast, because I can tell now, if I had not gone through, just trying to learn my sister, learn you, there's some folk that be cussed out too soon in life. Simply because, learning people, relating to people, man, the practice or the sounding or the ups and downs of building relationships happen when you have a sibling.
Oof.
And so without a sibling, I definitely would have been let go of many of the things I've been doing this week. I've been let go at least 7.5 times. Because getting along with folk sometimes is difficult, but
listen, probably more than that. Probably more than 7.5.
Exactly. But yeah, being raised in a home with our parents, where we got in trouble for fighting, we got in trouble for arguing, and by we I mean me, and you just got away with crap. But anyways, so I learned how how to get away with not get away, but learn how to just deal with different personalities. So that's what this week has been. Just learning new people, and it's been hectic. It's been rough, but it's all good. What about yourself? How'd your week go? How's your week going so far?
It's funny. I'm opposite of you, where you're having to deal with people and relationships. I've been really isolated and kind of in my own space, and deadlines have just been the thing all this week, is hitting deadlines and hitting them in stride. And what's frustrating is I am a task oriented person. I love checklists and to-do lists. And it seems like as soon as I check things off, another item, another deadline jumps on that list. And so the joy is so short lived, because it's like, yes, I got this finished. Now it's the next thing I have to do. So then I just started saying, well, why don't I just make all of this do at the same time? Because it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just still going to be trying to get it all done. So this has been a week of deadlines, people adding deadlines to my list and removing them from theirs. And so pressing through and learning to prioritize time. So no complaints, but definitely been in my own zone in that space. So it's been good. So let's get to the sound off segment.
Sound off segment. Sound off.
So our sound off, and this is a pretty exciting theme for us. We're just kind of looking at the bond between siblings. So we're looking at how that bond develops into something that is protective, something that just really covers each other. So that's what we're looking at. And when I thought about the theme for this week, one of the stories I remembered was when your nieces, my two youngest, Corinne and Corey, were taking Taekwondo. And we were all in the gym, and I think it's called a Sifu. I don't know. I think he's a Sifu. Anyways, he was like, pair up. And because we're getting ready to spar. And so everybody was like pairing up. And I noticed that nobody was really pairing up with Corinne or Corey. And I don't know if maybe the assumption simply was that, they're sisters, they should spar, whatever. So I was cool with letting that happen because nobody was pairing up. And so, the Sifu comes over and he was like, siblings cannot spar with each other. But he didn't give any context. So it was just like, he just like, they can't spar.
I
And then
have
he
spoken.
walked off. Right. Like, well, hold on, Master Splinter.
Right.
Give me some context here, brother. Like, so since he didn't give me any context, I did not comply. I wasn't going to go ask no kid to come up and spar with Corinne or Corey. He ain't say nothing, but siblings can't spar. I'm like, okay, well, we gon' listen. You don't tell the Evans family what they can't do. We gonna show you what we can do.
Right.
So I didn't do it. I didn't say anything, right? And so I'm watching these like third degree black belts spar, and they're sparring in the opposite corner of Corinne and Corey sparring. And I mean, they getting it. I mean, straight out of Kung Fu Theater getting it. I'm talking like Jackie Chan and Jet Li getting it.
And Bruce Leroy.
Listen, they were getting it. And I'm sitting there watching, and and everybody's sparring, but I'm watching these two.
Right.
And I'm in it. Like if I had popcorn, I was good. Like this was great. But what I noticed is the level of attention to those two sparring at the black belt level, it started decreasing. Like, in other words, faces started turning from watching them.
Right.
I did not turn because I was like, this is good. Right. So I didn't turn, but I noticed faces started turning in the opposite direction. And I was the last person to stop paying attention to this full-on great MMA style sparring.
Right.
And finally, I was like, I'm missing something because everybody has turned their attention to the opposite corner in which I'm watching. So I slowly start to turn into the direction that everybody in the gym is now facing.
Right.
I look and I say to myself, what is going on? Why is everybody turning? I finally get to what everyone's looking at. And they're watching Corinne and Corey in a full-on blood sport kumite battle.
My nieces.
And I at first I was like, oh wow, they get it. And then I heard Corey say something that made everything the Sifu said make sense.
Right.
Corey said, and this is for taking my Barbie, and did a roundhouse kick on Corinne. It was at that moment that I realized siblings should not spar. The Sifu came over to me and was like, this is why they aren't supposed to spar. I started like wanting to bow to him. Right. Here's context. And so I felt like I should bow to him. It's like, I'm sorry. I didn't know I should fall on the sword. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But I was like, oh man, my bad.
So sorry.
Right.
So sorry.
And so like I picked up an Asian accent all of a sudden. Right. Slightly offensive.
Right, absolutely.
So he runs in between them and like breaks them up and everything. And Corey is steady looking at Corinne like, this ain't over. This is not over.
Round 2 next week.
Right. And Corinne, Corinne is looking back at Corey like, bring it.
Right.
Like, it is what it is.
I got a laundry list for you too.
Right. And so I it's at that point where my mind was like, y'all are sisters. Like, why y'all fighting? Like, I don't understand. What is going on? Well, like, I just, so it's in that moment where, in connection, what we're talking about, what we're going to be talking about today, where I realized that, man, siblings, we go through different phases of, do I fight you or do I protect you? Do I fight you or do I kind of keep your best interest at heart? Are we going to blows?
Right.
Or are we going to bond together and be good? And as a parent, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm realizing something. Sibling relationships, as significant as they are, they're definitely the biggest challenge that parents face.
Sure. Yes.
Right? I can deal with my daughters and say, hey, you know what? You treated your friend wrong.
Right.
You that's not how we handle that situation. But when it comes to siblings, it's challenging because the source of the disagreements are from a bond or from a
Hmm.
family bond.
Right.
The
Right.
arguments, they're from a family bond. And sometimes the source of stress, the source of disagreements, the power behind arguments, not only are from a family bond, but they're activities that are happening in the family. So it's kind of
Absolutely.
like, parents are fighting. Okay, do the siblings come closer together? Do they begin to protect each other
Right.
from
Right.
the parents fighting?
Right.
So the bills aren't being paid. Okay, do they bond together and figure out how to make it as siblings, or do they, bash and just fall into the stress? And
Mm.
so that's a hard relationship to manage as a parent.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where immediately I felt in that moment. I'm
Hmm.
supposed to be teaching that y'all supposed to be best friends as
Right.
siblings,
Right.
but
Right.
there's some things in between you that you can't let go of, because
Yeah.
you got to go home with this person.
Yes.
You can't
Yes.
necessarily forget, because
Hmm.
it's a mannerism or a habit that you're going to see as soon as you get home with this person.
Absolutely. And I mean
And
that
so that
that
was a
label of
difficulty.
bond is so
Yeah.
important because it brings with it all the complexities, right? Like our
Right.
human nature and those complexities. When I was chewing on, our theme for today, and I love that story of my nieces because I know I have my own laundry list of, just things I keep in the pocket for any time I can get a jab in, whether it's physical or otherwise. If I can take the last slice of pizza from you, and I can, say, yeah, that's for when you did this
Yeah,
when I was
yeah.
in third grade. And I think we all keep
Right.
those lists, but that's this notion of the
Right.
spoken and unspoken rule that creates this kind of, whether we agree upon it or not, mutual obligation, right? To
Right. Right.
protect the bond of our siblings while we're
Right.
also figuring out our own identities and lines and limits. And so I was
Right.
doing this research and I was coming across so many interesting stories. The first one that comes to mind with it in the context of how do we define what that bond is as siblings, what should be protected, should we fight and or defend
Right.
each other.
Right.
Our mom, before she retired as a principal of elementary school, she was a teacher prior to that, and she told me a really profound story. And she told me the story years ago, and I thought about it when I was digging into this about a middle school student that she had who was in her class, and he would rotate obviously to different classes, but apparently his brothers, siblings, as well as the family, had gotten into a pretty nasty beef with another family. And she said it was definitely
Okay.
gang related. And
Okay.
so it come down to the fact that that particular day, this particular middle school student was going to get a page. At that time, they were using pagers. We didn't have cell phones and all that stuff then. So
Right.
he was going to get
Right.
a page that said, hey, when you receive this page, you walk out of school because your siblings, your whole family is going to go and handle this other family in a full
Oh,
blown
wow.
brawl and fight. And so the respect that he had for our mom as his teachers, he said, Miss Evans, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I have to let you know that when I get this page, you can't stop me. And
Wow.
he wasn't trying to be rude. He was actually trying to make sure that he could set up the scenario where he could leave. And basically he was telling her, I have to go deal with this because my brothers are
Right.
in it. And
Right.
this notion of having a choice is not even there. There is no choice. The only choice
Right.
is I'm leaving, which is why I'm taking the time to tell you now. And I remember talking to our mom saying, well, how did you feel? Like, did you feel like you should report it? Did you feel like you should, deal with it? And she said,
Right.
no, because he wasn't afraid. She said, when it comes to like
Yeah.
him being
Yeah.
afraid or him, saying I'm scared to do this, and it didn't matter if he wanted to do it or not, but she knew he didn't want to do it. She knew it was more of this, again, this obligation, this
Yeah.
unspoken bond, right? That says I
Yeah.
have to go and do this. And so he got the page and she saw him walk out. He was gone for several days. He comes back and he's scarred and bruised,
Yeah. Of
but he's
course.
done
Of
that. And I
course.
remember thinking the craziness of that scenario is if that page continues to come every day, he's going to walk out and go.
Yeah.
Every time he gets the page, he's going to
Every
go.
time.
And
Yeah.
so it just made me think, and I started kind of researching, like, is this a broader trend? And when I tell you, Dre, I found stories of two siblings robbing a bank together because their
Right.
dad recruited them, all of them
Right.
getting locked up, and the brother simply saying, you know what? I knew my sister was going to do it, so I had to do it. And now we're
Yeah.
all serving
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
And you start to see all this and you're wondering, well, at what point does sibling loyalty, family loyalty, this blind loyalty start to be a problem, but are there the other extremes? Are there times where we are too disconnected, where we could have protected more? And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of in this sound off segment. And as we dig deeper, what we want to really investigate is where's the harmony, if you will, because I'm not sure if it's fully balanced, but where's the harmony between the bonds that we definitely honor and want to protect our family
Mm-hmm.
by any means necessary, and particularly our siblings, because like you already
Right.
mentioned, there's a unique dynamic there. But are there times where there's a line that shouldn't be crossed?
Yeah. I think just kind of going through the two different stories that were being told, and you're
Hmm.
looking at where's the balance and the harmony. I think at the substratum or the foundation as to, do I protect my sibling? Do I fight my sibling? Do we do this as a family?
Hmm.
Or do I grow as an individual? The bond in and of itself, I think the moment the bond stops bringing out the best, that's when
Mm.
it's crossed the line.
Hmm.
That's when
That's good.
it has the potential of going too far or
Hmm.
doing too much damage. So if I protect, does it still bring the best out of my sibling
That's good.
to understand that you needed this protection,
Hmm.
but you needed it because you haven't learned this characteristic or this skill set. I need you to learn it now
Hmm.
because you need this protection until you learn it. Or let's or whether it's I end up in a conflict with you, fighting against you
Hmm.
because you aren't being at your best, and as a result it's impacting me. So I think the bond itself should always bring out the best, because the fact of the matter is this: it is a balance.
That's
There are
good.
times where you do protect, but there are times where you got to put your sibling on notice,
Right.
period. It's a balance. It's a balance because there's you're trying to grow into whoever it is you're supposed to be. They're trying to grow into whoever they're supposed to be. That's where the on notice comes.
Yeah.
Just because you do that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. Let me put you
Right.
on notice. But
Mm.
then there's in the same token, there are things that you get out of the bond that you got to protect because they have to grow. So sometimes those sibling interactions, they kind of provide this arena for developing and practicing relationship and life skills,
Okay.
and that's important. Go ahead.
Let me throw one more at you then, because this is another example that I found as we round out the sound off segment. So there is four siblings, raised in the same family. Unfortunately, alcoholism was present. Drugs
Okay.
got involved. The oldest siblings, the three older siblings, eventually found their way to sobriety and started kind of, getting on track with their life. The youngest baby brother didn't quite fare so well and got himself into a situation where he was arrested for illegal possession of firearms, assault
Mm-hmm.
with a knife, and
Mm-hmm.
he had already had run-ins with the law prior to. But this is where this whole conversation of where's that line. So
Mm-hmm.
he's arrested, and he's now locked up, and the judge decides that they're not going to release him on what is that, recognizance. So he's
Mm-hmm.
basically now up against this notion of bail. His expectation, because of all the previous times he's been in this situation, was that his siblings would what? Bail him
Bail him
out,
out.
no
Yep.
question. And they called a sibling meeting
Mm-hmm.
and had to make the decision. One was because he was drunk at the time. The young lady who
Right.
he allegedly assaulted was drunk, and they were supposedly dating. So you already see the dynamics there. But their
Right.
bottom line was what you just said. If we do this, is
Right.
this helping him
Right.
or hurting him? And
Right.
then the worst part is once they collectively agreed to not bail him out, the sibling bond still made them stand flat foot and go up there and visit their brother in jail one at a
Absolutely.
time and have
Absolutely.
to say to him, we chose not to do this, and see him
See it.
behind that space and the pain of it. And they also talked about how intense it was for their family. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, they understood this is the right choice, as hard as
Absolutely.
it is.
Absolutely, because here in that scenario, in that situation, the bond still provides, I guess, what maybe a psychologist would call sibling warmth, meaning it's tough, we had to make a cold, calculated decision to let you grow, but
Hmm.
the warmth there is still supporting you. That in the even when because nobody's perfect, even in the
Right.
mistake, as family, as brothers, as sisters, we still accept you. And
Right.
then there becomes this social competence that says, I made a mistake. My family still loves me. The bond is still there. Therefore, I've got to become more socially inept and realize
Mm.
that there are certain things I've got to change about myself. And you learn that through siblings, because friends, they could walk out and just
Walk away.
never come back.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But it's the bond that says, yes, he's in prison. Yes, he's in jail, but he's still my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to get up there. Yes, we collectively made a decision, but it was for his good, to bring the good out of him. And so, yeah, you still that sibling warmth. And I think that's part of it, where, the times we have to protect, that's the warmth side. But still in the middle or at the end of the protection, you still got to get with that sibling and say, listen, I should not have had to protect you here.
Right.
And at the same time, where you got to fight, then it's not always a physical fight. Sometimes it's a stance, just like you said.
Yeah.
It's a stance that hurts, because if I say, if it's a sibling fight, it's usually about hurt. It's emotional hurt, mental hurt, whatever it might be, relational hurt. But the warmth says, but still go help in the healing process and make sure that they know the bond is still there. And what that does is, as they translates into adulthood, is it allows us as siblings to understand, like I said earlier, peer acceptance and social competence. So it allows us to say, you know what, this sibling relationship brought the best out of me through its ups and downs. Now I can be better for the relationships I have as an adult. I can be better for who I am reputation wise, or legacy or significance in the environments I go to. Peer acceptance, I can be better, because sometimes my brothers, they protected me. Other times they had to let me grow, so they fought against me. And it doesn't mean a literal fight, but they fought against my heart, fought against what I wanted them to do, fought against my expectation, because they had to make sure that I would grow. And that's kind of like this basic understanding of the power of what it means to be a sibling and to be in a sibling relationship. It shapes life. It shapes the course of life. We spend this large, enormous amount of time with our siblings. More so, it's crazy if you think about it. Siblings spend more time together than they do with their parents, than they do with in a marriage. Even if the marriage lasts forever, they still were with their siblings longer.
Much longer, usually. Yeah, absolutely.
More time than your kids. You know what I mean? Like your bond with your sibling is longer than any other relationship, and more deeply rooted than any other relationship. So when you spend that much time together, whether it's protection or fighting, you learn family identity. In other words, you learn your identity through these shared experiences. And yes, it yields this lifelong bond, but it also yields the ability to make it in life a lot better with new relationships and new circumstances and new situations that show up.
That's
so
so
yeah,
good.
I get it.
Well, in the spirit of sibling power and sibling bonding, it's a perfect segue to our sponsorship, which is the Savage Siblings Podcast. We're here to encourage bonding and to give perspective. So, Andre and I, our goal is to stay committed to creating content that gives the unique perspective and lens of the sibling experience. So we are not experts, we're everyday folks excited about analyzing life, and we do that with a storytelling foundation as we present that content. So Savage Siblings Podcast is committed to being brutally honest, relentlessly transparent, and unapologetically authentic, and we're super glad that you guys are rocking with us. And with that, it's time.
Ready to get savage?
Let's get savage.
All right, so today's episode is entitled "Duck Fool." Right? Yeah.
Cue sound.
Right there. You go. It's looking to challenge. How far do you go to protect the sibling? What does that look like? The title comes from something, a story. Well, not a story. Something that happened in life. This is not fiction. This is real stuff that happened. But I remember being in, I believe it would have been 4th grade, and maybe it was 5th grade. 5th grade, that means you would have been in what, first grade?
First
grade. So it had to be 5th grade. So 5th grade, elementary, Nikki's in 1st grade, and we're being dropped off in Latchkey. So let me just pause there for a second.
Right.
It takes a special cut to be a latchkey, right? Like if I went through the Bible, I think I could pull out some latchkey siblings, like Cain and Abel.
Right.
Those are latchkey kids. Those are latchkey kids, right?
Oh, my
Cain and Abel.
You may not survive.
Right, exactly. Those are latchkey kids because one will kill you. And
Yep.
not just kill you, but kill his own brother. Latchkey kids. Listen. Isaac's half brother. Isaac and his half brother, latchkey kids.
Right.
Because Abraham was like, you leave.
Right, you gotta go.
You and your mama gotta go.
Here's some
but
resources.
Ishmael be out. Isaac, you can stay. Ishmael, you out. Those are latchkey kids. Jacob and Esau, latchkey kids. Because Jacob stole his brother's birthright. Latchkey kid. All right. It takes a special mindset. Joseph's brothers, latchkey kids.
Latchkey
like
kids.
Put him in a
Gangster.
pit and sell him.
And stand over
Latchkey
him.
kids.
Stand looking down at him. Like, what?
Exactly. These are latchkey kids. I'm trying to tell y'all, for those of you young folk listening that don't know what latchkey is, Google that joint. Latchkey kids are a different mindset. They're different cut.
Out in
the
these
reason why
streets.
I say that, right? They stress exactly. That latchkey was to prevent these kids from being in the streets and on their way to juvenile hall, and so that's the makeup of the population in which I'm about to discuss. So we're in latchkey, and we're playing dodgeball. I mean, that's the sport of champions. Classic, right? And it never failed. Once Nikki started playing dodgeball with us, they always put her on my team. And I didn't fully appreciate that,
Right.
but I get it. It's fine. So whatever. So she's on my team. Somehow, and this makes no sense to me, it would be like me and you, Nikki, me and you left on our team. Everybody else got out.
Right.
Knowing good and well, you should have been the first one to get out.
Right.
But I couldn't understand why you was on. So, of course, everybody on the opposite team picked on you.
Yep.
So I remember significant and consecutive times where a sixth grader would throw that red plastic, will knock you out and give you a concussion ball. Like, it is not school regulated in these days, right? Like, that ball had gluten in it. That ball had full-blown gluten, like hardcore
Processed
gluten in it. Right. It was made in China. I'm saying something. Listen, I'm saying something.
No offense.
Right. It was made, and if it wasn't made in China, it was made in Taiwan. I'm telling y'all, I'm saying something. I'm saying something. No, listen, it was made by folk that we gonna take out some Americans.
Right.
It's gonna last. So a sixth grader would full blown throw that thing, and Nikki, you would get hit dead in the face.
Dead in the face, chest, face, upper body.
And I'd be wanting to yell, "Duck, fool! Stop getting hit!" And here's the reason why: not because it knocked you. It's because the whole gym would go quiet.
Right.
And everybody would be like, "Andre, what you gonna do?" Because it went beyond dodgeball. Nope. This was no longer dodgeball. This was, that dude just punched your sister in the face.
Yep.
What you gonna do, Andre?
Ooh.
Right, that's all you heard. Even the latchkey, what were they? Latchkey instructors, they got quiet and look.
They're like, oh.
Like, wait a minute. You got the whistle.
Not
Blow
even intervention.
The whistle.
It's just like, let's see how this plays out. They turn into commentators.
Call the
Let's see.
nurse. I know the nurse isn't on site for another hour, but call the nurse. Don't put me in this situation, because now I got to go up against a sixth grader who's a foot taller and 200 pounds heavier, because you wouldn't duck.
Right. In my defense, I was developing my dodgeball skills as a first grader. Just saying, they were green.
No. You were developing your tolerance to get hit by a gluten-filled plastic Taiwanese-made ball that could give a concussion just by grazing you.
Right.
And
couldn't get enough. It was like, let's play again.
And I would have to put down the dodgeball, walk across the forbidden dodgeball center line.
Hell yeah.
And threaten a guy a foot taller and 200 pounds lighter by simply saying, "Don't you hit my sister again with that ball in this game we call dodgeball."
Right.
Like, it made no sense. There was nothing about this that made, obviously all I said was, "Don't hit my sister again."
Yep.
And then it was on. Like it was an argument. It was a threat. You know, you do that thing where you bump shoulders and walk in a circle, talking about you better not throw, you better not
Right.
do
But
nothing. You
not
better
right.
not. That's
Circle
all we
around. I
doing.
bet you won't. I
Smelling
bet you
each
won't.
other's breath. That's all we
Right.
doing. Just like,
I bet you
but
won't.
I had to do that
Mhm.
because you didn't know how to duck.
Yep.
And the fact of the matter is, really, what it was about is I had to defend my sibling.
Yeah.
I had to defend my sibling.
Yep.
And so the question becomes, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important? Why? Where did that come from? How even
Mm-hmm.
do we look at this sibling bond and say, I got to protect this one at all costs, even when it means going up against somebody taller, bigger,
Oh, yeah.
or something bigger and stronger, or circumstance that you are not fully equipped to handle?
Mm-hmm.
Why? How? When? How do we
Yeah.
define that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that moment was. That
Mhm.
moment was where nothing was done wrong.
Nope.
Like they were supposed to throw the ball at you. It's
That's part
dodgeball.
of
You
the
were
game.
supposed to dodge it,
Yeah.
right? So you didn't dodge it. But I still had to jump up and defend.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, how far is too far? Like,
Yeah.
at what point do I just say, Nikki, get up,
That's cool.
walk it off? I bet you duck that. That's
Right.
fine. Pick you up. What we learn?
I
Just
think
kind of like
it's
what.
I think it's a universal truth, that and I think it definitely probably weighs heavier on the older siblings. Certainly, I
Yeah,
knew that you were a protector for me, but we
yeah,
definitely, as we'll probably chat more about today, know that all siblings kind of have that level of protection in us for our siblings for varied reasons. And so I feel like there's just this space of family loyalty, whether it's
yeah,
blind or otherwise, that is just innate in being siblings. And so for me, the experience was really positive, like not getting hit in the face with the ball or those things,
right,
and walking it off and right. But just this
right,
this space of, I know my brother's going to protect me. So even if one person got me fairly hard, it wasn't going to happen again. So when you're the sibling who's being protected, there's a part of you that may puff your chest out. There's a part of you that
right,
may say, yeah, I'm going to tell my brother, I'm going to tell my sister, or bet you won't do that again because look who's over here. And so definitely
right.
is a pride there in that loyalty. But as you're kind of pointing out, there's also, this obligation that's not
Yeah,
always healthy. And it
right.
probably spins off into other things too, in terms of, like you just mentioned, where's the line, where's too far. So I think the first thing to kind of dig into is, like, how do we define protection as
Right.
siblings? Or let's speak to siblings, because certainly it can spill over into family, but in the context of our podcast for siblings, how are we defining protection?
I think it's a complex
Mm-hmm.
understanding. So as we get into how we define it, I think there's so many complexities here that we kind of got to take several things into account. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, what we're looking at and trying to protect is kind of like this preventative or intervening measure
Mm-hmm.
that reduces risks that we don't want our siblings to have to endure
Yeah.
if the risk was wrong.
Right. That's good.
Right. So whether it's emotional protection or physical protection
Mm-hmm.
or,
Mm-hmm.
or financial protection, ultimately what we're saying is listen, I've got to prevent or I've got to intervene
Mm-hmm.
because there's a portion here that I don't think you're ready for. And what I'm trying to do is reduce your risk.
That's
I
good.
can't guarantee you won't get hurt, but I
Mm,
can help you reduce your risk of getting hurt.
that's
And
good.
ultimately, I feel like that's kind of, even in that scenario of dodgeball,
Mm-hmm.
where, yeah, I fronted on the dude, but what reduced your risk from that moment is he aimed a little bit lower.
Yeah,
Like
that's good.
the same person didn't hit you in the head twice.
Right. Right.
That's what I know.
Yeah.
And so they
Mm-hmm.
started aiming a little bit lower. And I think that's a key portion of protection is,
Mm-hmm.
can I reduce the risk my sibling has to go through? Can I reduce the risk of negative impact that happens to my sibling if I kind of intervene right here?
That's good.
Yeah. So
So
for
for
me,
me,
that's kind of where. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, for me, I was thinking, this notion, because I obviously wasn't protecting you as much growing up. But then once we're both adults, you start thinking about different ways that you would protect your older
Right.
sibling or siblings. And
Right.
I think for me, that the definitions that kind of hit me were this notion of I'm going to do everything in my power to defend, to keep
Right.
safe, or to preserve.
Right.
And I kept
Right.
thinking well-being, right? Because like you said, it's
Right.
broader. It's like, so if that's physical well-being, that's what I'm doing. If that's financial well-being, that's what I'm doing. If that's emotional protection, that's what I'm doing to make sure that you're well. And I kept getting, I called it the Arya Stark moment from Game of Thrones.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, it's at
yeah.
the end of the season where she says, "Say
Yes.
another word about
Yes.
killing my brother, and I'll cut your throat."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. Yes.
and it's like even the idea
Absolutely.
of you talking about
Yeah.
is a problem for me,
It's
right?
gonna be a problem, right?
Because it's potentially, adverse to his well-being. So I'm just gonna let you know, and I think all of us have those kind of Arya Stark-esque moments where
Absolutely.
we're defending and
Because
protecting.
and I think that's so pure because Arya Stark had no problem talking about her sibling. In other words, I'll talk about Nikki all I want to,
All day
but you
long.
better not say nothing.
Right.
You better not open your mouth. You better just simply enjoy these jokes. But you better not tell no jokes.
Right.
You better enjoy these digs.
Yeah.
But you better not open your mouth and be a part of this digging process. That much I do know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's a great starting, or I guess I should say foundation for how we're going to define it. But there's different ways. There's physical protection, there's
Mhm.
emotional protection. Like I
Mhm.
said, protection, then what that lets me know is it's deeper than what we're going through.
Yes.
And it really does continue to dip into that bond because
Yeah.
unlike friendships, even unlike marriages,
Mm-hmm.
sibling relationships are non-elective.
Yeah. You don't choose. Yeah.
Like I didn't select you.
choose. Yep. Absolutely.
I didn't choose you.
Yep.
So my protection of you has to be deeper than this cursory or pulchritude.
Mm.
It has to be rooted in something that makes us common. And so they naturally then imply kind of this lifelong bond because, like you said, my protection of you playing dodgeball was when I was in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
My protection of you right now, while we're both in our mid or younger and older 40s,
Mm-hmm.
is different.
Yes.
It's a different style of protection.
Yeah.
And so that protective role as a sibling, it really begins to encompass like everything. It begins to encompass complementary elements of life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because now I know I can't. I don't guide you right now. I don't say no, Nikki, don't do that.
Right.
You're because of at younger ages protection. No, Nikki, don't do that. And you listened and you learned and you learned and you learned.
Mhm.
Now you make these decisions on your own. And instead I come through and say, okay, did that work? If not, how do we manage through that and make things better for you, make things better, make the decision or the choice that was made better so that it feels better than what it did when you first got into it.
Yeah.
So the protection over time changes. The protection over
Absolutely.
time is different, kind of like you said, but it's still all encompassing
Yeah.
because you're not going to forget how you were protected when you were young. I'm not going to forget
Right.
when you started looking out for me. I'm not going to forget these scenarios,
Yeah.
and they're with me now. I
Yeah.
remember when I was going to do this, and there was I don't know how old, I don't know, but I was working at a community center, a youth center or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you would come because you'd have to be there. And there was this girl there that I was interested in, and she was interested in me.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing you said, and you may have been 12,
Mm-hmm.
but the one thing you said is, Andre, she don't like you. She like all of you, like all of these men. Like you pointed, you did like all
That's
of the
awesome.
guys that work at the center. And I was,
Little
and at first
fast-
I wanted to take
fast girl.
offense. Right. I wanted to take offense, but I was like, whatever. Come to find out, she did like all of the guys that worked at the community center.
You're welcome.
Right, exactly. So it's one of those moments where it's not even a what do you call it? It's not a gender role, but it's also not a birth
Like
order
order. Yeah. The
role.
hierarchy. Right. Yeah.
That's what lets me know it's a bond
Yeah.
that's all encompassing. It has nothing to do with one particular thing. It's just a bond. And you at 12 didn't have to, as much hell as I gave you, you didn't have to do that. You could have
Right.
let me find out that, well, she hung out with me Monday with dude who works 3 to 11 Tuesday, dude that works 1 to 5 Wednesday,
And
dude that
giggled
comes in
about it.
on my shift with me on the other side of the gym with the whistle, hung out with him on Friday. And, it's like, okay, you know what?
And giggled. Like,
And giggle,
"Ah."
right. You know what? I ain't
You
finna
make
fool
such
with
a
this.
good point though about the layers to protection, because I
Yeah.
think about it. You bring up the point about this 6th grader that's a foot taller than you, bigger,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and that willingness that we are to just stay. It doesn't matter how big the obstacle is or the potential enemy against your sibling. You will go back to back, us against the world if need be, when it comes down to
Right.
that protection. And so I know there were times where it was you defending me and I couldn't do anything. Other times when we were together, like, no, 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 you're
Right.
not going to treat us. We're family. You're not going to do this to us. And
Right.
then, as you said, as we get older, even times where we know we can't fix the problem,
Yeah.
the layered approach to protection looks different, but it's still there. I remember, as I was finalizing and kind of going through my divorce, and you had been through yours prior to, and this is a scenario where you're like, sis, I can't fix this. Like, this is a journey you have to walk out on your own. But what you
Right.
would do is you would create these kind of fun laughter moments where you would text me reason 678 why divorce is good. Right? Or
Right.
why I'm happy to be divorced today. And
Right.
this is not a shot at our exes or at, because we
Right.
love them too. But what you understood was this is another way for me to provide protection, because every day
Absolutely.
she's going to have to walk through this hurt while she goes through this healing process that does not happen quickly. And there's lots
Right.
of layers. But what I can do is text her something funny to
Right.
get her to laugh. What I can do is let her know I'm here with you. I can't walk it out. I
Right.
can't take it off of you. I can't remove it. I can't fix it, but I can let you know that I'll experience it with you. And if I can provide a moment of reprieve, a moment of relief through laughter, that is
Right.
also my role as a sibling protector. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the layers that just makes it so great. So that makes me think now, are there spaces where as siblings we feel the pressure to protect, be it
Mm-hmm.
physical, emotional, general? Are there pressures, and where do those pressures come from? What are those expectations, and when are they established?
So for me, the pressure's there, but I think there's negative pressure and I think there's positive pressure.
That's good. That's
So
good.
and what's crazy is the negative pressure oftentimes comes from the parent.
Mm,
Because from birth, the parent is kind of preaching to the older sibling, hey, I
mhm.
need you to be in love with this new baby. Well, why?
Right.
Like, why I got to be in love with this baby?
Right. It's not my baby.
You and dad didn't sit down and talk about having another kid.
Right.
So why I got to be in love with this baby? I don't have to be in love with this baby. And then there's all everything is made about the baby. The baby's crying. The baby needs to be fed. And for me, because I'm an introvert, that's okay. But for other sibling dynamics where you don't have an introvert,
Right.
that's not always okay. You made
Right.
everything about so in that regard, there's this pressure
Mhm.
that says not only do you have to love this baby, and as a sibling, you're I don't know why I have to love this baby.
Right.
Not only do you have to like this baby, and which are two different things. I don't know why this baby doesn't do everything that I like, but now I have to protect this baby as if I'm the parent,
Right.
but I'm not. I didn't sign up for any of that.
Right.
I actually didn't even sign up to be
Right.
your child.
Right.
So I mean, there's a whole lot. There's a whole
Family
lot going on
obligation.
right now, right? Under this umbrella of family, which is supposed to be good. There's a whole lot that you didn't ask me.
Right.
So instead of that pressure, though, I think the balance then becomes a different one, and that's the pressure of influence.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the part where it's not a voluntary or involuntary thing. It's an existence thing, because the fact of the matter is part of our protection of our siblings is the influence that we have on how our sibling internalizes symptoms.
Wow.
So when bad things happen, if the bond between siblings are there, then the way they internalize the symptom of what's bad oftentimes can turn into be a more positive thing.
That's good.
So the deeper the bond, the less chance there is for adult level depression, adult level anxiety, adult
Wow.
level alcoholism, adult level, substance abuse addiction. Because what's happened now is there's a protective layer that was established at a young age that
Mm-hmm.
said, when I'm hurt, I've got a sibling that protects me in
Me.
my emotions
Mm-hmm.
so that I can heal faster,
That's good.
right? I
Yeah.
can't keep my sibling from getting hurt, but my bond with my sibling can help my sibling heal faster. And that's a protective stance as well. So when Nikki hurts, I hurt. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to
Mm-hmm.
hurt. So I got to help. I got to protect Nikki from further hurt
Mm.
by jumping in as a sibling and saying, "Oh no, let's fight against this," and we figure it out. So it's influence on
Yeah.
both positive and negative that I think applies pressure, but not all pressure is bad. Some
That's
pressure causes us to move to greatness.
That's so great because it reminds me of when I made my final decision to attend Florida A&M. And so, we were both raised in Wichita, Kansas, both eager to get
Hmm.
out of the Midwest to actually
Right,
experience
right,
life. Just leave it at that.
right.
I like just life, not real life, not better, just life.
Just
And
life, yes.
and so I had auditioned in New York because I was interested in
That's
acting at
right.
that time.
That's
And
right. I remember
there
that.
were, some other choices and places that I was considering going. And
Hmm.
beyond just the financial, restraints and things of, okay, where is it going to be cost effective to live, etc. The one
Right,
thing that our mom, and again, this is, I think, a good pressure, and in retrospect became a great pressure. The one thing she always reminded, she and dad were never going to tell either of us where to go to school. They always wanted us to
right.
make a lot of our own decisions. But she
Absolutely.
always reminded me, like, yes, you can go to New York. And she even said, if I have to do bake sales to get you there, I'll figure it out. But she said, if you choose Florida A&M, you'll always know that your brother will be
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. Yeah.
just as a safety net, as a landing space that you could always. And initially I was kind of like, but it's New York and all this. And of course, the
Hmm.
old reason why I even considered Florida A&M is we had visited you during spring break while you were in like your
Right.
first or second year at Florida State, and you
Right.
gave us the tour of FSU, but also took us to FAMU, and I had fallen in love, but I was equally in love with New York, just the city.
Right.
But that in the back of my mind, that reason, an added bonus of really protection.
Yeah.
That yes, you'll be fine here. Yes, you get the scholarship. Yes, this is great. But the one thing that Florida A&M has that New York's Academy doesn't have is your brother. And I think
Hmm.
when I finally made the decision, it had a little less to do with that. But I can definitely tell you, after being there, and you were there, I think, for a good year and a half or 2 years before you relocated
Hmm.
to Charlotte, there were plenty of times where I had no food and you would take me to get food. There were plenty of times where I
Hmm.
didn't want to be in
Yeah.
my dorm room with my
Yeah.
roommate. And I'd be like, can I
Yeah.
just come stay there? And you're like, sure. There were
Yeah. Yeah.
never a question if I was going to any party or anything. I always knew I had a safety net, right? So when you
Yeah.
use the term influence, like the good, the negative, and the positive pressure, it is 100% real in siblings, whether we can identify it or not. But in this case, it
Right.
was a big deciding factor in terms of how I started my college career, and a
Yeah.
blessing. Even if I didn't see it in the initial decision, certainly to this day, I'd see the benefit of that. And a lot of my friends would say, "Oh, your brother's here. Oh, that's cool. He's here and he can help you out." And yeah, so that again, that those expectations that come with protection can be good and bad. But there are times when, I guess, on the negative side, where parents have expectations of siblings
Yeah.
to do things that aren't good, like if
Right.
you don't. I just remember thinking, if anything ever happened to you when we were growing up in Kansas and I was there, I knew our dad and our mom, even if it wasn't something that I could solve, they were still going to ask me, what did you do to help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you go get somebody? Did you
Hmm.
like, I wasn't going to be okay coming home unscathed and neatly
Right.
put together, like, man, they,
Right.
they got Andre. They got him.
Right. Right.
Like, it
Right.
was like, no, there's an expectation
No, right,
that
exactly. Because
what
it would
did
have
you
been like, well, why didn't
contribute?
they get you too?
Right.
Why, if they got
They were
Andre, why
big,
didn't they
Dad.
get you?
They were big, hairy men. Like, what do you
Yeah,
want me
that
to
ain't
do?
good. That ain't good enough. That ain't good enough. You go get got. That's what I want you to do. You go get got.
You know, you got to come in
So,
limping too, like,
you do.
you better be some scars or
You
something.
got your friends hitting you on the side of the house, like, please, just
more
knock
time.
my
Right here.
collarbone out. Knock my collarbone out. It's got to be real. It's got to be real.
I can't stand before them. I can't.
Right.
So it's so true that it can be negative and positive pressure, but all of it, I think, as you're
Yeah.
speaking to, definitely grows and develops us. But that does beg the question: how far should you
Yeah.
go to protect
Yeah.
or defend your sibling? Where is that line? To what
Yeah.
extent?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. That is a varied answer to a very real question.
Mhm.
It's kind of one of those. Somebody got to survive here, right? Somebody got to survive. So as long as we both gonna survive, let's go. Let's do this, whatever it is. But one of us got to survive. we both can't end up dead. We both can't do a bid of 25 years in prison. Somebody got to survive.
The legacy, the
Right, the legacy
bloodline.
got to keep going. I don't know. For me, I think what has to happen is you go as far as, like I said early, greatness can still be achieved or pulled out of the individual. Greatness can be pulled out even in the harshest of circumstances. In fact, greatness most definitely is pulled out
That's
when
good.
things are harsh and difficult, and you really
Yeah.
just got to bear down on who you are and decide, I can't find myself here again, and I
Mhm.
got to get out.
Mhm.
So protection can go as far as greatness can still be pulled out. But the moment you're just enabling behavior,
Yeah.
you're keeping the cycle of destructive behavior, your protection is no longer protection at that
That's
point.
good. That's good.
It's destruction, right? You're not
Mhm.
protecting, because protection should mean that the person comes out better or just as good,
That's good.
okay, ready to move forward. But if it's destruction, you didn't
Mhm.
protect.
Mhm.
You didn't protect at all. In fact, you did more damage.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a tough decision. That's
Mhm.
a tough decision to make. I think there's sacrifice in how far you'll go, because a lot
Mm.
of times, if I go back to the dodgeball, like I knew every time I stepped to a sixth grader, I knew if they wanted to, they could beat me up. No cap. They could just take me
Sure.
out.
Sure.
So I was willing to sacrifice
Right.
getting hurt to let them know, aim lower.
Mm.
You might get me today, but you're gonna aim lower tomorrow. You gonna aim lower,
Yeah.
because when I heal, I will be back if you hit her in the head again.
Right.
But now at the
When I
same
heal.
time, what they don't see is when we get home and I'm like, you're gonna learn to duck though.
Right.
You gonna learn to duck. So
Foolish
stand against
child.
that wall. Stand against that wall. I'm gonna throw
Right.
this bowling ball at you. I bet you duck. I bet you duck. I bet you duck.
Right.
This bowling ball made in Taiwanese, made in Taiwan. I bet you duck. I bet you
Be
duck.
one of our sponsors. Stop it.
Right. Right.
But you make a great point in terms of crossing, it can cross the line if you're robbing me of the learning,
Yes.
of the development, the growth that, or even
Yeah.
just, and we don't like to say this all the time, but the failure that's going to lead to the growth.
Right.
If that protection does that, then yeah, that definitely should be a hard limit. One other thing I want to
Mhm.
add to it as well is I think there's a space where if I start accepting perspectives or views that I know are stark opposite of who Anitra is. And this is where that bond can be tested too. Certainly, we
Mhm.
have values that come through the family, but as you become, your own identity, your own self, an adult, if there's a point where my values, my perceptions about the life that I want to have is in stark contrast to my sibling, and I acquiesce anyway, I give in anyway, then that to
Mhm.
me is crossing the line. And I think that sometimes is a real test for siblings as we all get older, is that you sometimes are shocked to discover, oh, we don't agree here.
Right.
Oh, wait, you don't see that. But
Right.
why? We grew up in the
Mhm.
same house, but how can you
Mhm.
not, right? But and
Right.
as you discover who you are, you find that, you know what? This is who Anitra is. This is who Andre is. And I
Right.
think sometimes that family bond, that sibling bond, will definitely force you to stand firm on your values, whether they're
Yeah.
shared. If they're not shared
Yeah.
with your sibling, that's a line that you have to say, look, I love you, but this is a hard line for me. And so I
Right.
can't continue with this because we don't have shared values here. And so, it's dangerous when you allow those family bonds to push you to spaces that are contradictory to who you've decided to be.
Yeah, and even and so you bring out two other aspects there because that's still a level of protection.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have to protect our siblings from themselves,
Yes.
and so it's establishing their identity through protection
Ooh,
from
that's good.
themselves
That's good.
that then they can start to set that boundary. So then ultimately then the second point I want to bring out is when you move into protection mode for your sibling, number one, like I said earlier, you keep from being destructive and you stay in
Mm-hmm.
protection. They're able then to identify who they are, but you also are able to establish within each other what empathy is, because
Ooh,
yeah, we
that's
don't
good.
have to always think the same, but if I can understand, what you're thinking, then I can have empathy. That doesn't mean I have sorry or pity on you. It just
Right?
means that
No,
I can
I
understand
can understand.
empathically, emotionally,
Yes.
empathically
Mm-hmm.
why you see things that way. And now I can go further in protection from you because you're going to get in the world and somebody's not going to see things the way that you see them and they may move to attack mode. But if I
Mm.
can empathize,
Yeah.
if I have that empathic response, I can still move into, no, you ain't finna attack. She is who she is. That's what that's the identity. And the beautiful thing about learning those or establishing those two things through this bond of protection is it still is influence, but now it's influence in a different way. It's
Mm-hmm.
influence socially. It's
Yeah.
influence professionally. It's influence on a personal level when you move into adulthood, because there are some decisions that I don't make. So for instance,
Mm-hmm.
because of that instance where you came up and said, "No, Andre, she's for the streets." I now know red flags. When there's a woman, I say, "Oh no, she's for the streets." Why? Because it reminds me of when my sister tried
Mm-hmm.
to protect me
Hot in
against
the
getting my heart
pants.
hurt. Right. So you see that move on to adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because that protection has to have empathy in it,
Mm-hmm.
but also has to have enough space so that your sibling can get identity,
It's
and
so good.
that way then you can continue to protect on a deeper and a more grand level.
That's so good. So you talked about, eventually working with me on my dodgeball skills.
Yeah.
How do we go about letting our siblings learn on their own? Because there's a space
Yeah.
where life teaches, and there's a space where we try to teach each other, like the examples we've given. And
Hmm.
how do you let your sibling learn things on their own, where maybe you kind of step back and say, okay, uh, it's actually better for me to not intervene and even maybe not say much, just
Hmm.
let it play.
Yeah. We both have had to learn with each other,
Mhm.
and when you see these sibling relationships in the spotlight that are thriving and doing really well, what they've learned is to have a balance
Mhm.
between what's a life lesson and what really is protection.
Yeah,
And so
that's good.
there are definitely those times where I, especially as an adult, and this is why you don't hear me say, no, Nikki, don't do that. You may hear me say, well, this is one thing that might happen, but ultimately you got to go through it. Is
Mhm.
life lessons. Life
Mhm.
lessons um, are there to help grow and to develop us. And if I stand in the way,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
then you don't get to learn. You don't get to
Mhm.
learn what it is that you need to learn,
Mhm.
and life has to grow us and develop us. So therefore, we have to have growing pains. I can't stop the growing pains, but I
Mm.
can be there to let you know that you have a safety. You can
Yeah.
still, I'm here if you need me. I'm here to get you through it. So it's a balance,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It's not a cookie cutter. It's a balance. I got to know when to step back,
Yeah.
and I got to know when to step in front
Ooh, that's
and and
good.
and
That's
do my
good.
and yeah. So yeah,
You could tweet that, when to step back, when to step in front. I can
yeah.
think of two specific scenarios where probably the two shortest conversations you and I have ever had, like
Okay.
via phone, which we don't necessarily, sometimes we go long, sometimes we don't talk much, but these are definitely the shortest, which are directly connected to, you choosing to step back and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this one's on you. So one, when I was I think I was in grad school, but related to a young man I was dating, and we were of different uh, doctrinal faith. He had a
Oh yeah.
different faith than I did, and it had gotten to where it was becoming emotionally taxing for me because I was struggling with how to figure out if this would be a lasting, long term, relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
I kept really boggling. I kept focusing more on the doctrine and, well, maybe I do this and my faith could change this way. And I think I had called you a couple times to kind of just vent about it over and over again. But I think maybe after the second time or so, you said, stop acting like a baby Christian.
Come on, somebody.
And you were like,
Come
you
on.
know who God is, you know who you are.
Yeah.
Bye. And like that was it. But it was
Yeah.
enough to say, "Oh, yeah, I'm over here toiling over." And at the end of the day, this was one where you were saying, I'm stepping back. Whatever decision you make is
Yeah.
your business. But what I am going to tell you
Yeah.
is you're not a baby Christian. And then the other
Yeah.
time was, again, going back to when Ralph and I found out we were pregnant and we're deciding if we were going to go ahead and have this wedding. And again, you're the only person. Everyone else was calling, going through all the, oh, it's going to be fine. And, you're going to be a great mother and we'll do this. And you called, and literally the first thing you said was, I have to say this so that I know that I said it. You don't have to get married because you're pregnant.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
have to say
I
it.
remember that.
And you're
Right.
like, okay, bye. And that was it. Like, job done. Whatever you decide. And you were right there with me, standing with me. But she's like, I have
Yeah.
to say it so that I know I did my part and do what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so you're right. It is a balance, a harmony, a case by case, situation
Yeah.
in terms of,
Yeah.
determining how do I allow my sibling to learn on his or her own. I feel like it was less a pressure for me because you were always the eldest. And so much
Mm-hmm.
of what I was experiencing, you had already experienced or were familiar with. And so I didn't necessarily have to figure out that balance of, because you're grown. It's like, that's Dre. He's going to do what he wants to do anyway. But I imagine as the older brother, you had to contend with that with me plenty of times. And
Right.
yeah, it
Right.
doesn't go unnoticed. It doesn't go unnoticed. So,
Right, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's a balance because you can tell siblings who cross the line
yeah.
because you've got one who's spoiled, who's entitled, and then when just the slightest adversity comes that their other sibling can't protect them from, they crumble and they cry
Ooh, that's good.
because they ain't never had to face growth.
Yep.
And when you don't have to face growth because you've been overprotected or I'll even say sheltered,
That's
it's
good.
destructive.
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
absolutely destructive. So you could tell, but then you could tell those who balance really well, and they have a strong bond and a strong relationship, and they bounce off and they rely on the strength of the other, kind of get them through those weak points. Again, it's that kind of idea of a safety net.
Yeah.
And that bond that's exactly what it is. Absolutely.
Well, that leads us really well into segment 3, the transformational perspective, and this question of how do we protect those in our lives that we can encourage them, in essence, to be their best self or even their best independent self. If there's an issue of codependence there, like how do we develop those skills, the skills to duck, right? Like
Right.
to say, hey,
Right.
you're gonna have to learn to duck because if you don't, you're gonna keep
Yeah.
getting hit, and I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to keep defending you. So, what are some simple, strategies to help our siblings or our family in a broader sense learn to protect themselves and learn to be their best version of self, knowing that protection is always going to be there in the shadows, but you shouldn't get to where you always depend on it.
Yeah. And I think the strategies and skills are learned when you're growing up together as siblings, because you kind of learn what you do well, you kind of learn what you don't do well. You learn what worked here, what didn't work there. You learn personalities, you learn circumstances and situations. Because I look at who I am now as a pastor, and the reason why I can deal with some folk because their personality is something I had to deal with as a small portion of your personality
Right.
growing up.
Right.
or their mannerism, same thing, and that's not a good or a bad thing.
Right.
You
It
know,
just
it just is what it is. It is what it is, and so my skill set, and even look at that connection. My skill set as a shepherd today
Mm.
came from the skills I had to learn as a shepherd when I was young.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's a lot to that. And I'm not saying that, if you're a doctor, it's because you did surgery on your sibling young, but there are parts of your personality, parts of your makeup that allow you to shine socially because of what you learned, what you went through. I didn't always get it right. That's why I say the strategy is you're in a situation where you can't give up. I can't be like, oh man, I screwed up as a brother. I'm out. I'm done. No, I screwed up, but guess what? Tomorrow I still got to be a brother.
Yeah.
I messed up bad.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I still got to be a brother. So I have to learn how to pick up the pieces I broke, put them back together, and still create a masterpiece. I had to learn that you cannot give up. I had to learn that you can't stop protecting, because I may not have done a great job protecting yesterday because she was hurt. But today, I'm going to do a better job protecting. And while I know I can't prevent hurt, I can do my best to reduce the risk of hurt better today than I did yesterday. And in that process, I also learned, okay, you know what? Trying to fight a sixth grader isn't always the best idea.
Sure.
Instead, working with Nikki on how to dodge might be a better idea.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a day where we're no longer in that house.
Right.
And I can't be there when she gets hit with the dodgeball. So, but if I've done my best to reduce the risk by teaching her how to duck, maybe she won't get hit, because they're going to get thrown, but maybe she won't get hit.
Yeah.
Life is going, but maybe because of what I did in protecting younger and balancing to make sure that protection brought out the best in her, maybe it won't hit her this time. Maybe the same financial struggle that I had to protect Nikki from when we were young, because I do distinctively remember times where we didn't have an abundance of food, but Nikki ate.
Yeah.
And maybe there was only one slice of bologna. Nikki ate the bologna, and I was okay eating whatever there was that was less than bologna.
Yeah.
Well, so there are some things that you now, as a sibling of mine in an adult age, say, you know what? This household ain't gonna go down to one slice of bologna.
Right.
And that's the protective that brought the best out of Nikki. What has not happened, and that's where I got to thank God and I feel like that I've done my best, is there hasn't been a situation that you couldn't bounce back from.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And that goes to bringing out the best in Nikki and doing my best to be able to protect. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm talking about the bond itself. I'm talking about what being a protective sibling and understanding what protection is, what it really does, what it absolutely does. Did we have moments where we were fighting in the Taekwondo dojo when siblings aren't supposed to spar each other? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, in this moment we're in right now, that was a moment that pales in comparison, both quantified and in quality, to the moments where I stood up to somebody who could have beat me up so that you could learn to duck.
That's so good.
And that's, at the end of the day, that's what's more important in the protective stance.
I think on the flip side too, if you're the younger sibling, or the sibling that often is the one that's being protected, is just the courage to, in terms of this transformational perspective, the courage to step out and be independent, to step out and be okay with failure, the courage to learn how to duck and go ahead and get out there and keep bobbing and weaving so you can figure it out. And, I remember as I was just getting older, removing the safety net where, our parents made sure that we had, for a season through college, and right after college, they'd make sure we had access to the Sam's card so that we could always get some groceries. And I remember at a certain point, I said, you know what? I'm going to send this back. And our mom was like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because at some point I'm going to have to learn to dodge. I'm going to have to learn how to duck. Right.
Yeah.
And know that whatever I have, I'm going to have to manage the food that I have. I remember calling our dad saying, okay, you can take me off the car insurance. Now he was very enthusiastic, whereas mom was much more concerned. He was like, great.
Right.
You have to tell me twice.
Say less. Say less.
Right. So it's like, but not because I was fully prepared, But
Right.
because I was learning to duck, I was saying, okay, yeah, you might get
Mm-hmm.
hit, but you're starting to step out there. And I think that's what we would encourage as younger siblings, are the ones who are often being protected. Don't rest in that protection to where it makes you not just codependent, but it again robs you of your greatness and robs you of your full identity and robs you of
Yeah.
the lessons that are going to make you better. One of the examples my brother brought up was just, being bullied. There's a
Yeah.
certain point where you're gonna have to face the bully, whatever that bully
Yes.
is, whether it's
Yes.
figuratively or actual
Yes.
physical person. Certain point where you cannot continue to depend on someone else to handle it, but you realize that there's a grit and a strength within you to stand up
Right.
and defend,
And
and
you
that
got
may be
to.
your dreams that you need to fight for.
Mm-hmm.
It might be your
Mm-hmm.
family, your marriage,
Mm-hmm.
your children,
Mm-hmm.
your wealth, your status, your sanity, your peace, like whatever
Right.
it
Whatever
is.
it is.
You have
Absolutely.
to get to where you can't call, on, your brother, even just simply calling to just always complain. Certain point, are you still complaining about the same issue? Duck,
Right. Duck. Absolutely.
you know? Are
Absolutely.
you still dealing with the same late bills? Duck.
Duck. Absolutely.
So it's our
Learn,
job.
learn.
Learn
Stop
duck,
taking them
fool.
hits. Right.
So,
And that bottom line there is that we have to, in that balance of protection, sometimes you got to allow those siblings to go through the experiences, because that experience will become a catalyst to their growth and to their development.
so good.
You can't always be there to save the day. You cannot and you should not always have to save the day. So yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Duck. Learn duck, fool.
So I've got it. I've learned, and I'm able to teach it to others.
Yeah, but you know what, that we laugh, but it's not an abandonment issue, because
Mm-mm.
and I want to give us our quick shot real quick.
Yes.
I got to put people on notice about my sister here, not about you, but just concerning when you deal with her. And here's my quick shot. I read a tweet the other day, and it said, "We're all mature until someone teases your siblings in front of you."
Right. Then it's a wrap.
So I will let my sister grow, right? But like I said earlier, you better not say nothing. You better not tease her. You better not talk about her. You better not even look at her funny, because I look mature until you come at my sibling. I look mature till you there. I also got some straightening in me. I know I'll lay some straightening out in a minute. So yeah,
I
so
love
that's
it.
that's the quick shot. It's all good
I
till
want
you
to
tease
add
my
to the quick
sibling.
shot. I want to add to it because I found it great when I was doing this research. Just some of those unspoken things between siblings, and particularly older brothers to younger sisters. And so I found about 3 or 4. And what I want to do is I'm going to just read these kind of statements that older brothers are saying are true when it comes to the protection of their younger sister. And I want you to say yes if you agree. You can say yes and add a little bit. Or if you don't agree, you can say no and add a little bit. So I'm going to read the first one. There is an unspoken verbal contract that states brothers can make fun of our sisters, but will summon all of Wakanda if anyone ever teases them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, we see the value in our younger sister, and we want the world to see the value. We also see the wretched, foolish ratchetness, but because it's connected to me, I ain't letting anybody else see it.
Right.
Therefore, if you make the connection between me and my sister through something negative, oh no, I gotta shut your mouth immediately. And I will absolutely fold my arms over my chest, start bobbing my shoulders up and down, hollering Wakanda or whatever, and you go get it. You go get it. I'll go pick up some grape Shasta, and that's your life. That's your life. That is your life. It is over. When I finish
Shasta.
my 2 liter of grape Shasta
Keep on back.
and depower and depower of the Black Panther, that's it for you, Doc. We done. We done.
All right, here's one more. Brothers have gained the insight to know exactly who a healthy match would be for their sisters. The truth is, though, no one is ever good enough for your sister. Therefore, all men will always be on probation with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing. it's not even about whether he's good enough for my sister. It's about whether or not I'm gonna have to kick his rear end for doing something that I don't approve of. That's really what it's about. It's about, am I gonna have to kill you later? Because what I don't want to do is have to tell my sister on Wednesday when visiting hours at the prison are 7 to 9 why I killed her husband.
That part.
But if I have to, I have to. But if I have to, I have to. It is what it is.
Let's squeeze in two more.
Okay.
Older brothers are uniquely suited to ward off unwanted parental scrutiny. When younger sisters get into trouble with our parents, you would often follow suit and help take half the blame, because it's harder for parents to be heavy on one when both children need to be punished. That's what I like. I was like, were you willing to get in the fire with me, or like, nope, get that whooping by yourself, Mickey?
Right now, I might come later and be like, you good? You good? But I don't know if I'm jumping in. See,
that's a no.
I don't know. That's a no for me. Yeah, it's a no for me,
Terrible.
Chief.
Terrible.
That's a no for me, Chief.
All right, one more. Brothers, your opinions of your sister's clothes, their look, their attitude will be completely unfiltered and raw. And yes, you may come across as a-holes at times, but you really want them to hear it from you out of love. This is in some way toughening up your sisters for the cruel world that they're going to experience out there.
Absolutely. I would like to strike one word from that. Ain't no may to it. I am going to.
Be an a-hole?
There's no may. I am going to be an a-hole. There is no may. So if you could respond to that tweeter who twote that and tell them take the may out, because I am going to be one. And that is exactly right. I'm doing this for your good.
For your
I'm
good.
doing this.
You're fat.
I'm doing
You're
this for your betterment. You was
Not
ugly.
at all. All right. You was not
ugly.
kind.
You was not kind.
You was not important.
You was not beautiful. I'm doing this to help you. I'm doing this to make you a better person. Yeah.
I love it. So that's our quick shot segment, which is always so fun. So, Brobo, what do you have for the final blow?
Let's go back to this kind of balancing act of protection. And again, I want it to be a great understanding that if it's destructive, it's not protection. If it's pulling out the greatness of your sibling, then it is protection. And sometimes telling the difference can be difficult. What I'm going to always go back to is what's the reason why the protection is needed, and understand that there are times where, and I'll put it this way, you're not God, right? There are certain lessons that your siblings have to learn. You're not God. If God has decided that your sibling has to learn a lesson to bring the best out, you can't stop God from teaching that lesson.
Yeah.
I think there are times where when we become destructive, where we're like this bouncer over this VIP section, and we'll say it's where our sibling is, and we're trying to keep certain things in, let certain things in and keep certain things out. But the problem is that only God knows who's on the guest list, and he's not giving you that guest list.
So good.
And so we're sitting here being more destructive than protective, because we think we know better than God what should happen to our sibling. And that's just not it. Sometimes we have to let the thing play out because it's a life lesson that's going to grow our sibling. And if you interject yourself, you're more destructive than you are protective. Protection should always bring the best out of our sibling. They should always benefit from what we're doing, and just loving them. Protection should come out of love, what we're doing in our actions towards them. I being the pastoral person I am, one of the things, or one of the verses that really struck me, it came out on this, is in Hebrews chapter 12, looking at verses 5 and 6. He says, have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? It says, my son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by God. For the Lord disciplines those that he loves and chastises everyone's son whom he receives. In other words, Protection comes from this moment where we're building. We're building. So if you can't build your sibling up through protection, then you're not protecting. You're destroying. And every now and then, you've got to build through both letting them grow and build through, definitely protecting and then teaching behind the scenes, things like that. So I think that's how we show love, and we create a different bond, create a greater bond. If you think back, and when I think back on the times where we both stepped back and just let each other experience,
Right.
and then we think about those times where we stepped in front and said, no, this isn't going to be good for you. Let me protect you from this. Our bond deepened.
Yeah.
Our bond grew. Our bond meant a lot more. And that's the thing about it is for those of you who are single children, the reason why we have the word brotherhood and sisterhood is not because it's blood, because you can still establish and have a great brother or sister relationship.
Right.
The key is when it comes to the protecting factor, are they pulling the best out of you? Or are they causing you to go into destruction? That's kind of the thought process. And so that's my final blow thought for this episode.
Excellent. Wonderful. We've come to the end of this episode. So, of course, we thank you all so much for joining us. Savage Siblings, a podcast where we are brutally honest, relentlessly transparent, and unapologetically authentic. Please stay connected with us through all of our platforms and our website. Leave us comments, post your thoughts. Let us know how you feel about sibling protection. And most importantly, if there's a certain topic that you'd like us to tackle and discuss for our Sound Off segment, for the Savage segment, Transformational Perspective segment, or the Quick Shot, just let us know on the platforms. We want to dig in deep the way you guys have been with us and rocking with us. Huge shout out to our creative team, Mr. Dwayne McClendon, our sound editor, post-production supervisor, and Mr. Ronnie Maxwell, music producer and music supervisor. We could not get this done without you. Bro, I love you to the moon and back.
Love you.
All right, and so Savage Siblings sounding off. Remember, don't go through life alone. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.